Exercise 21-33, High-Low Method to Forecast Costs. So the manager of Loyal Car Inspection reviewed the monthly operating costs for the past year. The costs range from $4,000 for 1,000 inspections to $3,600 for 600 inspections. So we can read the requirements here, or they do pop up of each section here, so we can close out of this for now. So for requirement 1, we have used the high-low method to calculate the variable cost per inspection. So our first job here is to input the formula, and then we're going to input the numbers here, and we'll need to round to the nearest cent. So just to get a quick overview of what's going on in this problem, so we're going to use the high-low method to calculate variable costs. Right here in this first portion, then we're going to use that to calculate the total fixed costs, and then we're going to come up with an equation here and calculate the operating cost for 100 inspections. And then number 4, we're going to draw a graph illustrating your total costs under this plan. So essentially what we're trying to do is between these 1,000 inspections and these 600, we're trying to project the costs for other levels of inspections, in this case 800 here. So going back to our slides here, the high-low method was used to project costs of various levels of tablet production. Notice here's the tablets produced, and here's the various maintenance cost levels associated with a number of tablets produced. So what we try to do is we try to figure out, well, how much was the variable cost per tablet, and then what is the fixed cost involved with these levels of costs. So these maintenance costs in this column, these are mixed costs. They involve a fixed cost and a certain variable cost per unit. In this case, tablets, and over here you can see the formula for the mixed cost equals some type of fixed cost plus the variable cost. And they call it the high-low method because we take the highest level of production, the 480 tablets, and the lowest level of production, 240 tablets, and then we'll use those two data points to calculate the variable cost per unit and then the fixed cost. And then here's step 1. We calculated that the cost per tablet was $2 per tablet. So what that means is that for every tablet they produce, there's $2 of variable cost that would be contributed towards the maintenance cost. And then in step 2, we found out that the fixed cost was $1,000. So no matter how many tablets we produce, there was $1,000 of fixed cost. So the end result is we found out that the mixed cost, which equals the fixed cost plus the variable cost, was the fixed cost $1,000 plus $2 per tile. And that was the variable cost times the number of tablets they wanted to produce. So that's what we're going to recreate in this homework exercise. So in the first step, we're going to use the high-low method to calculate the variable costs per inspection. So we're recreating this step here. So let's go ahead and close out and go back to requirement 1. So let's get the formula in for variable costs per inspection. So that is going to be the change in total cost, and that's divided by change in volume of activity. And because it's the high-low method, we choose the high level of production and low level of production. Now up here in the words, they only give us 2 levels of production, so that's what we will use. So again, the formula for step 1 is change in total cost divided by change in volume of activity. And that gives us variable cost per inspection. So now we need to calculate the change in total cost with the highest production level and the lowest production level. And because they only give us 2 production levels, we don't have to search for the high and the low. So the change in total cost, we're going to take this 4,000 and subtract 3,600, and that is going to give us a $400 change in total cost. So that is 400 there, change in total cost, and then we're going to divide that by the change in volume of activity. So that's the number of inspections here. So we had 1,000 inspections minus the 600 inspections. And by coincidence, that gives us 400 again. So that's going to be 400 for the change in volume of activity. So then 400 divided by 400 gives us $1 variable cost per inspection. So I'm just going to put 1.00 there since we are rounding to the nearest cent. And then we can go ahead and check answer. And then fantastic. So what that means is that this variable cost per inspection is that for every inspection there's a dollar cost. So if we have 2 inspections, we have $2 of variable costs. Alright, so then requirement 2, calculate the total fixed costs. Select the formula and enter the amounts to calculate the total fixed costs. Use the highest volume and its mixed cost to calculate the total fixed cost. So the way we did that in the slides is listed down here in step 2. Fixed costs equals mixed costs minus variable costs. So well, how do we get there? What does that mean? Well, notice the mixed cost up here. A mixed cost is just a fixed cost plus variable cost. If we use some simple algebra and rearrange that, it becomes fixed costs equals mixed costs minus the variable costs. So that's what we're going to do up here in step 2. So again, that formula is going to be total mixed costs minus total variable costs equals total fixed cost. So what we found out here in our slide is that the fixed cost was $1,000. So let's see what we have in this scenario again. So we're going to take what they said to use the highest volume and its mixed cost to calculate the total fixed cost. So here we're going to have the highest volume up here. The highest volume is this 1,000 inspections. So we're going to use 4,000 mixed costs. That's the total cost. Remember, it's a mixed cost. So we're going to put that 4,000 here. And then we're going to have a minus total variable cost. And that variable cost was $1 per inspection. So we're going to take $1 times the number of inspections. So that's $1 times 1,000 inspections. So that makes for $1,000 in total variable cost here. And then we're going to calculate our formula here, this total mixed cost minus total variable cost. And that is going to give us a total fixed cost of $3,000. So what that means is even if they did 0 inspections, they're going to have a $3,000 total cost. If they did 1 inspection, it would be the $3,000 fixed plus $1 per that inspection. So 2 inspections would be a total fixed cost of $3,000 plus $2 of variable cost per inspection, since there would be $2 in inspection. So that would be a total mixed cost of $3,002. So let's go ahead and check our answer. Nice work. Okay, so requirement 3, write the equation and calculate the operating cost for 800 inspections. Select the formula and enter the amounts to calculate the operating costs for those 800 inspections. Enter all amounts to the nearest cent. So notice this formula equals total mixed costs. And what are total mixed costs made up of? It's the fixed cost plus the variable cost. And so what we're going to do here is they're wanting us to recreate this formula in words right here. And notice there's something in here with a multiplier. So which one of these costs, fixed or variable, includes a multiplier? That's the variable cost. Notice there's parentheses here and here. That's the variable cost. So how do we calculate the variable cost? It is the variable cost per inspection. So this $1 times the number of inspections, which we're trying to figure out what the total mixed cost is. The total cost is for 800 inspections. So again, the formula starts with this variable cost per inspection, and that's multiplied by the number of inspections they're asking about here, this 800. So that is the number of inspections. So to finish this formula in words, total mixed equals fixed plus variable. So this next one is going to be total fixed cost, since we already have this total variable cost here. So now let's get our numbers in. So again, that variable cost per inspection is this $1. And that is times the number of inspections, so 800 they've given us here. And that's plus total fixed costs, which we just calculated here in the second requirement. So that is 3,000. So now to calculate this, we take this $1 times 800 inspections, so that's $800, plus 3,000 of fixed costs, which will give us total mixed cost of $3,800. So let's go ahead and do our answer. Nice work. Okay. So now for requirement 4, see if I can scoot this up. Let's see. Draw a graph illustrating your total costs under this plan. Show the cost of 600, 800, and 1,000 inspections. Plot the points cost of 600, 800, and 1,000 inspections. Plot the line for total costs. Enlarge the graph and use the point tool and line tool buttons displayed below to draw the graph. And then also we have this little note here: when plotting the points, be sure to double check that the points are correct after they are drawn. If you need to adjust the points, click once on the point, then use your arrow keys to move the point to the correct XY coordinates. And they also have this note for plot the line. When plotting the line, When plotting the line, be sure to double check that the points on the line are correct after they are drawn. If you need to adjust the points, click once on the point, then use your arrow keys to move the point to the correct XY coordinates. So again, we're going to graph these 3 plot points on this graph down here, and then that line that will correspond to those 3 points will be able to help us predict costs in different scenarios. So the first step here will be click to enlarge the graph. And then next we want to make sure we click here to get to the point tool in order to get the points. And then we're going to start with this cost at 600 inspections. So again, this 600 inspections are here on the x-axis here, and then we're going to go scoot up to get to 3,600, because again, each inspection is $1 plus the $3,000 fixed cost. So that's going to give us 600, 3,600. So you can see these coordinates here, that they are correct. So again, in this upper right corner, we'll have our plot points, the coordinates, and then notice up here too in the words, it shows us the cost for the inspections here. So that 600 inspections is 3,600. So if you didn't calculate it, it's also up there in the words. Now, if we did this plot point incorrectly, we could hit this delete key here. So I'll show you how it looks. We could hit delete this object. Okay. So then we would start over, use the point tool, and then go back to 600 on the x-axis and 3,600 on the y. So there that one goes. Even though it was correct the first time, I just wanted to show you how that delete button works. And then next step, we're going to plot the point for 800 inspections. So again, we did calculate that Here previously we had the fixed cost of $3,000 and the variable cost of $800, again $1 per inspection. So that's going to give us $3,800 that we're looking for on the y-axis when we get to the 800 inspections here. So we'll go ahead and hit the plot point and go 100, and then we're looking for 3,800, and we'll click right there. So that looks good. We have 800 inspections at 3,800 total mixed cost. And then we will get our last point in this 1,000 inspections. And again, if you didn't calculate it, it is up here, $4,000 for 1,000 inspections. And we can go ahead and enter there. So we've got 1,000 inspections up the y-axis here for 4,000. So now we're going to need to draw the line. So we need to click the line tool, which is right here next to the plot point tool. And we will start with the furthest right coordinate and stretch it here to the furthest on this end. And we have our line. So again, the purpose of plotting this line is that now we can project, well, if we get 1,500 inspections, we can go up here and see that's going to cost us $4,500 in mixed costs. So again, that's the point of doing this graphing, so that we can predict future costs in different scenarios, because businesses love it, like to do a lot of what if scenarios. And then we're going to go ahead and click our save button here. And notice it saves our graph over here. And then we can check our answer. Well done.